And welcome to the Alouettes Flightdeck, podcast dedicated to Montreal Alouettes football. I am Tim Capper, along with Cliffy D. What's up, bud? We have, as we are taping this, less than 1 month until the Alouettes return at home for the first time in 656 days. I can't wait.
Wow, has it really been that long since we've been at a live football game at Percival Molson Stadium?
Yeah, it has.
Dang.
Yeah.
It's hard to wrap my head around that. Like, I know you're a numbers guy, but like you tell me that number, I'm like, holy cow, it's really been that long. Oh, boy.
Yeah. It's funny. You know, we usually have more to talk about. We'd have possibly a preseason game to talk about in normal conditions, but because of the COVID training camp, not much to talk about, including even the scrimmage that the Alouettes had this past weekend held at Percival Molson.
Mm-hmm.
I wish we had been able to be allowed to be there as fans, as some others. I know we're rehashing what we talked about last week too, but anyways, it is what it is.
Yeah, it's unfortunate because, I mean, really, truly, that would have really helped take care of some of that football fix, you know. Mm-hmm. And it's also, as I said before, it's disheartening to see people out in Saskatchewan, in Ottawa, in Hamilton, they're able to go attend scrimmages. I believe in BC too, out in the Kamloops. I think they had a scrimmage there, and the fans were allowed to partake in it as well. So and again, at least it's not just the Alouettes that have said no to their fans, because also to everywhere else, other than the places I've mentioned, there was no scrimmages to be had or access to training camp or anything like that. So it's not like we were the only ones being left out in the cold. It doesn't make it any less disheartening or frustrating, though.
I agree with you. But, I mean, it is what it is. And you know what's funny is that, you know, it's usually it's a known thing that the same day that we'll receive an update or a small synopsis of what happened at training camp that day, I didn't get anything from the Alouettes at all on the scrimmage, I think, until Monday, if I'm not mistaken. But, you know, it is what it is. You know, Charles and them in the PR office are working very hard. So can't fault them. Could, but don't.
No, and let's face it, who wants to work weekends, really? I mean, I don't. I'm sure you don't either. So
yeah, well, if it's an Alouettes game day, as we found out, they're working.
Oh yeah.
But we really didn't learn much. I mean, as I said, slow news week. We do have a couple of things to talk about, which are actually very interesting. Mm-hmm. It's a positive for if you're a fan of the Alouettes and hoping to attend games this year at Percival Molson. But we might as well, I mean, did we really learn anything from this scrimmage at all? I don't think we did, because there was no, I don't think, you know, even most of the media didn't say anything. I don't think Herb said anything. I don't think anything from the French side of the media said anything, at least that I saw.
Well, from what I was told, barely any media was there anyways. So, I mean, like, you know,
yeah.
and like I said, I'm trying to, gather bits and pieces of info, and it's really not much to go on. I mean, it's just
considering where they were sitting too. I think it was only the north side that was open. You know, the other side, the east and west stands weren't open, and so.
I mean, if you wanted to keep things under wraps, like keep the success of the Alouettes a secret, I mean, you're doing a hell of a job of doing so. And again, I'm not faulting the few media members that were there, because again, they can only see what they see too. But at the same time, it's really hard to get a feel for things. Like, is Vernon Adams balling out, or is he stinking up the joint? Is William Stanback running rush out over everybody, or is he can't find his feet? Like, who the heck knows what's going on?
True,
other than the transactions that you get and just little snippets here and there, as I said. Like, I mean, it's just like table scraps, essentially, of information.
Yeah, but I will give them props, though. I will give Charles and the media team props, because every day they're doing a spotlight on a different player. I like that. we can't see them play and see what they're talking about. But I like that idea of introducing these players, whether they're new or not, to the masses or whoever's able to read this.
Mm-hmm. So, it's definitely good too, because you're going to get to that point. Like, who certain players are. Who the B.J. Cunninghams and Vernon Adams and so on are. But there's other players too. You're like, who the heck is that guy? And again, if they're getting that mention, that means they must be doing a pretty good job. They're doing something to get themselves noticed anyway. So, in that sense, you're right. It's good that the team is at least trying to help put a bit of a spotlight on these lesser known players.
Yeah.
At least get you sort of acclimated to it, whether they end up making the roster or if they're on a practice roster or what. At least you kind of get an idea of what it's going to take to make this Alouettes team in 2021. From
what you have seen, because we'll get to transactions in a little bit. We've joked a couple of seasons here and there that the schedule the roster is so different that we're going to need a scorecard.
Mm-hmm.
In your opinion, because I know you are the players guy, and everybody knows that you are the players guy. When it comes to the other teams, how needed will a scorecard be? Will fans need a scorecard this year for Alouettes compared to the other teams in the CFL?
I'd say every team's fan is going to need a scorecard, I think, because I think I think you're going to see a lot of these stories of players from out of nowhere that are going to come up, and this is their opportunity to shine, and they're taking full advantage of it, especially too with the number of players that have retired or opted out for this year. Mm-hmm. Again, it's that next man up mentality, and I think that's what it is for Montreal too, is that a lot of these players that we're finally getting to see showcased, this is their opportunity because of players that have retired or opted out for 2021. So this is the opportunity for them to prove that they belong on a football field and to live out their dream. Like, this is their chance to do so. And I think you're going to see that league wide is you're going to be, that first game that you watch on TSN.
Yeah.
I'm sure this guy who he was on the team in 2019. You have no friggin' idea who he is. But man, he's a good player.
Yeah, yeah.
Like you're going to see that, I think, several times during week one. Is like certain names you're going to know right off the bat, but then all of a sudden you're going to get this guy that makes this outstanding catch or makes this outstanding tackle, and you're like, who the heck is that guy? I have no idea who he is.
Exactly.
And this is how you find out who the next superstars of this league is going to be. They got to come from somewhere, and this is where they come from, is these training camp moments.
So next week we'll be on the verge of the season starting.
Here's hoping that the head coach doesn't get fired 6 days before the first game.
No kidding.
In 2019.
It gives the Owls an extra week. But now looking at the Owls this year, and I think we just touched on this slightly, but how much is this week one bye week going to hurt the Alouettes, or will it not? And do you think it'll be will it be a positive for the team?
I think it'll be a positive in the sense that, well, I mean, you know what you're like as of this coming Friday, you know who your team's going to be because that's the final cutdown day. Mm-hmm. But also too, the players that are going to make the cut, you got to decide who's actually going to be on a game day roster and who's going to be on the practice roster.
Right.
I think, you're going to designate certain players on the practice roster because by law you have to. But this, again, gives them yet another opportunity to perhaps convince the coaches, hey, no, I can't. I belong on the actual game day roster.
Right. Okay.
And this will be their opportunity to do so. Like, they'll get that extra week of practice, extra week of bonding with their teammates and everything like that. And quite possibly, this is something that you can see, like guys that, especially those bubble guys, because once again, with no preseason games, mm-hmm. the guys that you're like wondering, is he going to make the team or not? They may make the team, but maybe they're still not where they still haven't been able to convince the coaching staff that 100% that they should be an actual part of the roster as opposed to just on practice roster. So to me, I think that extra week of practice, if you will, that bye week, I think that's going to be a major opportunity for a lot of those bubble players to really truly show that they belong on this team, and finding out whether or not they get on the plane to Edmonton to play that first game against the Elks?
My view on it is I think it is a positive because heading into week 2, the Owls will have some game tape that they can look at. The Elks will not have any game tape on the Alouettes.
That's true too.
So in essence, the Owls could have an upper hand. I don't know how that works. Will the Elks allow them to tape? No, we'll not tape the practice. We're not we're not the New England Patriots here. But you understand what I'm saying. What will they have to base it off? What was in their last game of 20? Well, hell, they played them the last game in 2019. So,
well, you can't do that because it's not the same team.
I know. I'm curious.
I mean, yes, there'll be a lot of the same players that were in that game, but this is not the same team.
No,
that's the one thing. And you're right. That could end up being quite the advantage for Montreal. Is they'll get that first. The Alouettes will get a chance to see what the Elks do against. I think it's the Ottawa Red Blacks they play. Mm-hmm. So they'll get some of an idea of what to expect. Now, they should have an idea of what to expect out of Trevor Harris, if nobody else, and Greg Ellingson. But I'm sure there's going to be a lot of new faces too in Edmonton, so that it would behoove the Alouettes to definitely pay attention to that first game just to see what they're up against. As far as, now, how do the Elks prepare for the Alouettes? You really can't go based on what you saw in 2019 because, you got Vernon Adams as quarterback, you've got William Stanback as the running back, you've got a lot of familiar faces on the offense and a few on defense, but this is not the same team. Like, this team is different. It's a different team, and
we've had players leave the Alouettes on free agency and come back in 2021.
Yep, we've had players retire. We've got all kinds of things, like players that are not playing this year for any number of reasons, and it won't be the exact same team. So I think Edmonton is going to have to really do their homework as much as possible, but without any actual game footage or training camp footage or anything like that. How do you prepare for this team? How do you prepare for the Alouettes?
Yeah.
It won't be easy.
No, it won't. I think the two big things really when it comes to fans in Percival Molson this season. The first was announced on it was just a couple. It wasn't a couple of days ago. I'm trying to verify when this was done. Yeah, it was done 2 days ago. So early in the week this week, where news came out from the Quebec government that they have made some modifications to their COVID protocols when it comes to fans in the stands in Quebec. And, they increased the size of indoors, I think it was to 5,000. And for any outdoor stadium, they increased it to 15,000 fans.
Mm-hmm.
So we've gone from potentially 5,000 to a maximum now of up to, and I'm saying that specifically like that on purpose because that's how it was written. We can now have up to 15,000 fans in the stadium. And doing that, they also launched their individual tickets. But what I thought was very interesting, Cliff, is they're basing it off of pre-sale. A pre-sale for individual tickets. Which will be, the pre-sale goes as of tomorrow. So the 29th of July as we are talking.
Right.
Give me your thoughts here, Cliff, for 15, because this lead into our next topic. What were your thoughts? I don't remember if you saw the Alouettes Flightdeck tweet first. I don't know if you saw what was said from the federal government on Facebook or on Twitter. I don't know where you saw the news first, but what was your thought when you saw this news?
Well, it's definitely exciting. I mean, 15,000 is definitely a good start. I mean, it's definitely, I was prepared for 5,000 because originally I know 3,500 was sort of the starting point, especially when it came to the Montreal Canadiens playing at the Bell Center. But now with an open air stadium, would we be allowed more? And sure enough, it was originally at 5,000, which, okay, fine, you make it work. That's how it is. Obviously, 5,000 fans at Percival Molson Stadium, which holds 20,000 plus, is going to not sound quite as loud as it could or should. So that was, it was one of those situations where you're like, okay, it's not ideal, but you're just so happy to have football back. You don't care.
Right.
Now with this news about going up to 15,000, that's pretty exciting because that's considerably more. That's like 3 times the initial amount, first and foremost. And 2, I think you're getting closer to the buzz of the stadium that you have come to expect. To me, I think I think we're going to get to see a little bit more of that atmosphere that we've come to expect at Percival Molson Stadium. I know over the past few years when the Alouettes were not that great, you would be thrilled to get 15,000 fans in the stands. So we may have a little bit of a flashback to those days, but hopefully not because of the Alouettes playing terribly on the field. I want to believe that fans are starved for football, league-wide, nationwide, including in Montreal. And I really believe that once single seats go on sale, I'm not predicting a sellout by any stretch of the imagination, but I definitely expect a lot of people to be showing up to the games this year because we didn't get football at all in 2020. And just the general consensus league-wide is that people are champing at the bit to get their football fix. You and I will be there 100%. There's never been any question about that. But the other, 14,998 people, are they going to be there? I guess we'll see. But I'm really excited at the possibility that we won't get a full house necessarily.
No.
But we should get pretty close to. And to hear that noise again, to hear that crowd noise and the excitement and everything like that, once again, that to me is what's going to be exciting. And that's the one thing I'm definitely looking forward to on August 27th.
For sure. Me too. And I heard the number and, it's not, again, I think we mentioned this last week where it seems to be that Quebec is not going at the pace and they are in other provinces. And I'm happy for that. But hearing the 15,000, I'm glad to have that. And yes, I too was prepared for about 5,000 or whatever it was going to be. But having the 15,000 now started making me think about other things. Because I was trying to find, because I think Mario Cecchini put out a statement for season ticket holders, which I'm trying to find as we're speaking. And I think I'm liking where we're going because again, it's going to be mobile tickets this year. Mm-hmm. Here it is. Because this one, it's season ticket holders. We would like to remind you that your passes are now in the form of mobile tickets. You will receive a detailed message next week on how to use and manage your tickets. Funny they mention that. Nothing official. I was perusing to see if I could find anything. Some topics that we could talk about this week because we know it was possibly going to be a slow week. And I came across something because, up until this point, our seats nor the QR codes for our digital or mobile tickets had not been updated yet.
Right.
And went in tonight, spoke with the other couple of season ticket holders also to confirm this. Obviously talked to you because you're now a season ticket holder. Woot woot. Yes, you got 2 woots out of me, Cliff. Be happy.
I'm ecstatic. That's 2 more than I thought I would get this evening.
And we noticed that there is a slight modification to the seats. What was interesting, because I didn't have it in mine on my ticket portal. You had it in yours. Cliff, if you can, Read specifically what it says, and then we'll go into it more. What it says on your season ticket portal.
Well, essentially what it says is that I am a proud owner or member, however you want to phrase it, of a 8-game season ticket package with social distancing.
Which I didn't have.
Right.
But
also,
go ahead.
And also to note, everything is where it's supposed to be. Like the right section, the right row. However, one couldn't help but notice that the seat number is not quite right.
Yep.
As I said, you and I are supposed to be seated together. And technically we are, but with this whole social distancing thing, it now appears that seats, you're going to be, like, fans are going to be sitting, at least in our section anyways. I really can't speak to any other fans, but it appears that you'll be seated every other seat. So instead of having, say, like 1, 2, 3, you've got 1, 3, 5, and so on.
Yep.
So again, I guess that's where the social distancing part comes in, but it's still a little surprising to see because, I guess the understanding is that if you buy a season ticket package, whether it's 1, 2, 3, or 4 seats, whatever the case may be, that everybody would be grouped together. Now, technically, you and I pay for our own seats, so yes. It's not a group, so to speak.
No, it's not. And same thing with our friend Chris, who sits in seat 1 in our row, which I spoke with too before we came on tonight. So.
Right. So again, I think this is part of the protocol as far as ensuring that fans are socially distanced, which I get, but at the same time, I guess it was a little surprising to see that now all of a sudden, instead of being in seat 3 directly next to you, I'm still next to you, but kind of one seat over.
Right.
So,
and I don't know what I swear, I don't know what the spacing is between the seats. I have no clue. I guess maybe they are a meter, because I think that's what the current regulations are here in Quebec. It's not the 2 meters; it's 1 meter, so that's 3 feet.
Right, which I guess could be the circumference or
yeah, I know
distance.
I don't know, but
I'm not sure the unit of measurement between
between
one seat
your
to another.
butt cheek and my butt cheek.
But that too.
So as you mentioned, we're not in our own. We pay for our own single seats. We spoke with another colleague of ours, another friend of ours who sits in the same row, has 2 seats, and his 2 seats are moved over by 1 also. Which I thought was interesting. Mm-hmm. So it's not that, say for instance, he was 16, I think he said 14, 15, he's now 16 and 17. So they actually did shift him over by 2. Oh, so they did. Okay. They did shift him over by 2. Technically 2. 1 per person.
Right.
So for that bubble, I guess we'll call it, or that group of seats.
Right.
The caveat is that I need to remember, this is all the same row in our section. We're all in the same row. I've reached out to the team to see if we can get a little more information. I know they'll probably be releasing it. But how's this going to work for other rows? So say, for instance, our seats are now 1, 3, and 5. Mm-hmm. Will the seats behind us and in front of us?
Would they be 2, 4, 6, you mean?
Or yes. Or will they be, say, for instance, I think the seats in front of us, they have 3 season tickets. I think their group is 3. Does that mean that they're going to be shifted like our other friend in our row? And then instead of being 1, 2, and 3, they'll be 4, 5, and 6.
Yeah.
I don't know how. Again, we'll find out in a month's time, or we'll find out once the team gives us a little bit more information. So
it's gonna make for a very interesting wrinkle, that's for sure. But again, that's kind of where we're at now with COVID and trying to get back to normal. And this is part of the process, I suppose, is to getting us back to eventually, again, hopefully 2022 will be back to as close to normal as what we've come to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely going to be a little bizarre. But I think this whole year really, truly has been bizarre when it comes to things like this. So, I mean, to me, it's just kind of par for the course. And we roll with it as best we can.
Exactly. So I think this capping of 15,000 may work out well. We'll see what happens. Because obviously people who are shifted over, that means everybody in the row shifts over.
Mm-hmm.
So,
not to mention it's going to be interesting too, like fans that from out of town that want to attend. Like I'm talking about like from other CFL cities that want to come and watch their team play the Alouettes. Like when they have to come and buy tickets through the Alouettes, how is it going to work out? Because it's like in regards to social distancing and all that stuff. Because if they're coming in as a group, like let's say like a whole bunch of Red Blacks fans or Ticats fans, obviously they all want to sit together.
Yeah.
Like in a section, for example.
Yeah.
How is that going to work as far as like they'll obviously have to respect the social distancing as well. And it may have to be like if they go and they want to buy 4 seats, it'll probably have to be spaced out in the same manner. But
it'll be interesting. And I'm wondering if the Owls will make it a mandate that you have to wear masks in stadium. I know we've talked about this for the past couple of weeks, but I have a sneaking suspicion that it will be mandated in stadium. Even though it is outside, I think it will be mandated.
I'm sure it will. I mean, listen, if Winnipeg can mandate that, or actually I should say it's the province of Manitoba, can mandate that fans attending Blue Bombers games have to be double vaxxed and be able to prove that they're double vaxxed.
I know.
I mean, I think that's kind of where the bar has been set now. And
they've set it high too, because I'm curious to know if the Alouettes would do that. I don't know. And I'll
be honest with you, I kind of wish they would. I kind of wish every CFL team would do that.
They're allowing more people. Well, yeah.
I know that's a very incendiary remark, but you know what? When it comes to in the interest of public safety and taking things seriously, I think Winnipeg kind of set the standard, and I think it's really up to all the other teams to sort of look at that and say, you know what? Why not? Why not do that as well?
So I just got, as I said, I reached out to another colleague, a friend of mine, who sits 3 rows behind us. And he was told he's not for sure what his seat numbers are, because he's like a couple of seats down from us and up.
Mm-hmm.
But he was already told that his seats have been moved. To what extent? He said he would have to follow up with me. So I'm curious. Anyways, yeah, that's a very good point. Now I can understand why they are doing the pre-sale.
Yeah.
Now it kind of makes sense. I was like, why are they doing a pre-sale? Now it makes sense.
Yep. There's a method to the madness.
So, yeah. Don't forget, we are on social media. So you can also find our archive of all the Alouette Flightdeck podcasts almost anywhere. If you want to follow us on social, you can do so by heading over to our Twitter account at Alouettes Flightdeck. You can follow Cliff at Cliffy D. And you can follow me at Repact, REPPACT. Best place to find out our archive is over at alouettesflightdeck.ca, or you can go to any of the different social podcast hosts and find us there. You know,
I think once again, people want to ask us, like, hey, where can we download the Alouettes podcast?
Mm-hmm.
Like, well, where can't you? Essentially, I mean, pretty much. I think at this point now you can pretty much go to just about any podcast platform type in this keywords Alouettes Flightdeck, and I'm pretty sure you'll find us there. I mean, we're on all the big ones like Apple, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio. I mean, there's no shortage of ways to be able to listen to this podcast, folks. So
exactly.
If you get a chance to subscribe, throw us some likes, positive reviews. I mean, we definitely appreciate any and all positive feedback. So, I mean, like, if you're not on board with us, folks, I mean, now's the time, because football's coming. We're getting amped up for it, and we want you along for the ride.
Yep. And also do not forget that we now have the audio version also over on our new YouTube, channel. We don't have the name Alouettes Flightdeck yet because we have to get to a certain number of subscribers, which, by the way, if you haven't done, please just go to YouTube, do a search for Alouettes Flightdeck, and you will find us. Make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, give us likes. Hey, it'd be greatly appreciated. Help us to get to that number so we can just say youtube.com/Al's Flightdeck or whatever it's going to be.
Right, and also too, this is right now it's all audio. Like, it's all, you can just listen to the podcast.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sort of listening to the podcast, but eventually with
I am
being
so
on YouTube,
tired of you listening.
Yeah, right. Eventually, you'll get to watch us do the podcast.
Yep.
I mean, that's eventually that's going to be the end goal more than anything else, is to be able to do podcasts live, perhaps on YouTube. So, yeah, definitely, if you get a chance, tell your friends, tell people to subscribe, give us the likes, show us the love, and it's going to come back to you, folks. I can promise you that.
Yep. Give us your thoughts, Cliff, on the roster moves this week. Not many major ones, in my opinion, but I think probably the biggest one was Naaman Roosevelt, obviously getting released. Anything else really stand out to you other than him getting released by the Owls?
Without question, that's the biggest name that's been released of the several that have been released this week. And this is all part of the Cutdown Day, which is going to be coming, as I said, this coming Friday, July 30th. I think by 10 p.m. Eastern time on July 30th, you've got to have your final roster set. Like, you got to make all your final cuts. And A lot of the releases that have been done this week are in accordance with that. Without question, Naaman Roosevelt is definitely the biggest name that's been listed as far as cuts go. And a lot of people are surprised. In fact, there's even a lot of people out in Saskatchewan that are upset that Naaman Roosevelt was cut, because obviously, he made such a huge impression out there, had a pretty great career in green and white, and a lot of people were kind of hoping that he'd be able to continue that career with the Alouettes. But as it turns out to be, it's a numbers game. I mean, being an American receiver, it's such a dogfight. Let's put it that way. I mean, nothing's guaranteed when it comes to training camp, and maybe this is one of the reasons, like, with no preseason games, like, you've got to be able to be on your game 100%. And unfortunately, we can't really speak to what we saw from Naaman Roosevelt because we weren't at training camp. We can't see anything. So,
yeah.
I mean, it's surprising because, the guy's had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons over the past couple of years. I mean, he's definitely a talented player, but that just says to me that the other receivers that are still on this team are just as, if not more talented than what he can bring. And I think it really just came down to a numbers game more than anything else. I don't think it had anything to do with his play. It was just a matter of, well, we can only keep so many receivers, and we got to cut. We got to make cuts, and unfortunately, you go with the. I hate saying it this way, but the older players are probably going to be shown the door more than the younger players.
Yeah.
So I think that's really what it came down to, is just, it was a numbers thing, American receiver. So unfortunately, Naaman has to, be shown the door. As far as other interesting names on the cuts list, a couple that stick out to me for any number of reasons. The biggest one for me after Roosevelt would be Benoit Marion, because he was a draft pick for the Alouettes in 2020. Played for the Montreal Carabin, played for Danny Machocha when he was the head coach there.
Yeah.
From everything I saw of his tape, his tape leading up to being drafted by the Alouettes, I thought this is a guy that can definitely make a force, be a force on this defensive line. But once again, it could just really come down to the numbers. And there's a lot of very talented players on the defensive line that are showing out in camp apparently. And I honestly haven't heard very much from Marion. So sometimes no news is good news, but I think in this case, maybe he just wasn't making enough of a name for himself there.
Yeah.
And unfortunately was shown the door. Ethan Maconzo, who was actually a draft pick this year, I believe I think it was the Alouettes' last pick in the draft in 2021. Also a former Carabin. Once again, surprised to see him go because, I mean, this team has made a major effort to sign as many Quebec-born players as possible, and Mancoso definitely does qualify for that. Being a former Carabin too, I mean, Danny Machocha knows what he was getting with him, and actually had wanted to bring him onto the team for quite a while. And this was the draft was the perfect way to do so. But once again, I mean, this is what makes it hard, folks. Like, you see the names on the list and you think, wow, I can't believe the Alouettes cut this guy. But without seeing what's going on at camp and only getting, the bare minimum as far as information goes from training camp reports, you really don't know how these players are playing, or, are they doing everything possible and it really is just a numbers game, or are they just not living up to their name? I really want to believe it's the former and not the latter, but again, we can, at this point, all we can do is speculate. Other names that are a little surprising are other draft picks from last year, such as Colton Klassen and Brock Gowanlock. Those are two young players that I thought were really going to be, fun projects for the Alouettes. But really, truly, I think it just comes down to the numbers more than anything else. Another name that might be a little surprising for some people, anyways, would be I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, Detone Jones.
Yeah. I was just looking at Herb's article about him. So,
well, and what's probably going to be surprising to a lot of people is the fact that he's a former first-round draft pick in the NFL. So there's a lot of people that automatically assume that, if you're that caliber of a player, you should have no trouble making a CFL team. So this once again proves that that's not always the case. I mean, if you've got talent, you're going to get the opportunity, but you've really got to stand out. And making this team, you can't rest on your NFL laurels if you have any. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, without seeing what he's done, I mean, his name's been mentioned quite a few times, especially too being a former NFL first-round draft pick. A lot of people had very high expectations of him. Maybe it was the numbers game. Maybe he just didn't quite live up to that potential. It's hard to say, but now, unfortunately, he's on the outside looking in.
From what I'm seeing, at least from Herb's article today, Herb Zukowski's article, he was the story specific was about Michael Wakefield.
Yes, who was actually cut earlier and then re-added to the roster.
I know. I mean, nobody in the CFL should be complacent on their current rosters and their favorites. Because come Friday at 10 p.m., I'm sure many of us are going to be picking our jaws off the floor just by the people that may potentially be released.
Mm-hmm. It happens every year. Every year there's that what the heck cut that's made.
And also because, it's 2021, it's that type of season. It's that type of CFL season this year where everything is so upside down that almost anybody, and we've already had some, and then some of them resurface in other cities. We've already had that. Some from the Alouettes. It happened with the Alouettes recently, where they released somebody and he was picked up almost immediately.
Tyler Krapinian.
Good example. Yeah. So don't rest on your laurels, fans. Do not rest on them. Wait and see what comes. Wait with bated breath for Friday at 10. You got to. Unfortunately, you have to.
Yeah, and inevitably you're going to get one or two players that you're just like, I cannot. What? Why? Why was he cut? And again, this is part of the frustration of not being able to go to training camp sessions, is because you want to know what the coaches see that you're unable to see. Like, what is it about this player that made them decide that they weren't going to be a fit for this organization?
Mm-hmm.
It happens every year, and whether it's due to age, due to lowered expectations, for any number of reasons why player X isn't going to be part of the team going forward.
Not part of the culture.
Well, that only works out in one place. This whole quote unquote culture thing.
It only works in the city where the sky is colored green and gold. Yeah. So it's very possible if you're on social media, get those WTF gifts ready for your favorite tweet, because it may happen.
Yeah,
it may happen.
Like I said, there's going to be a lot of names that you've never heard of that, they're strictly camp arms. That's it. But inevitably, folks, I mean, some of these players are stepping up big time and making a lot of noise. And when the dust settles, you're going to find out of those names who the Alouettes really think belong. And don't be surprised if a longtime veteran or another hotshot name that was brought in free agency, they find themselves
on the outs,
getting that pink slip.
I know. I can only imagine what that's like. I really can. I can only imagine.
Oh, I mean, it cannot be fun. I mean, even like this week, like the players that were released. I mean, like I said, like these rookies that were taken in a draft, they come in with big potential. We see what they did in university, and you think, okay, maybe now that they're in a pro setting, like I'm really curious to see how it works. And just because they didn't make the team doesn't mean that they're bad. It's just a matter of it wasn't the right fit at the time.
Yeah.
And I'm sure a lot of it too. Also, the fact that it's like, so the players that were drafted in 2020, they didn't get a training camp last year, so they walked in colder than the other side of the pillow. They didn't know what to expect. They don't know what There's a big jump from going to a university training camp versus a professional training camp. And those that find a way to make it work, they're going to be part of the team. The ones that can't, well, they're on the cut list.
Yeah, exactly. Finally, before we finish, out of curiosity, because we didn't touch on this last week. Now, obviously in the age of social media and stuff like that, the CFL has come up with some pretty unique, and I think they've gotten awards for it for their social media content when it came to what the hashtags would be, et cetera, for the league that year. And the league recently released again a new slogan for the 2021 season of "Rise with Us." Thoughts, Cliff? I mean, we've had the biggest one. I think that really got the most attention was was it June yet? Is it July yet?
I mean, the original would be, is it June yet?
Sorry, is it June yet? Yeah. That was one I think they won awards for. And they've had Radically Canadian, that was the relaunch of the all Canadian CFL in 1996.
Yeah.
But that was pre-Twitter, et cetera, but thoughts on this new slogan?
Not really. I mean, I guess got to come up with something, so that's what they come with. I mean, obviously you want to unite fans, because that's the bread and butter of this league, of course, is the fan participation. And seeing as how this year is probably going to be, you're not going to have that same participation that you had in years previous. Like, I do not see a whole lot of opportunities for fans to get together with players and see them after the games. And I'm even wondering if autograph sessions are going to be a thing, or having a chance to take pictures with your players and all that. Like that, I just don't see that happening again this year.
I don't either. And even with the rumors, there were rumors floating around there may be some loosening of the restrictions for vaccinated players, but I didn't bring that up tonight because there's nothing really about it yet.
Right. And again, with not knowing who's going to be vaxxed and who's not, or who's vaxxed and who's not, whether it comes to players or fans in the stands or anything really, anyone who's possibly going in or out of the stadium without knowing 100% for sure. Yeah. I mean, that's why these the things that made the CFL so unique and so fan friendly. I just don't see that happening this year. And it's unfortunate because, I mean, as I said, this is what makes the CFL so great, is that you are able to become a part of the league and be involved with players and so on and so forth. But this year, I just, again, due to circumstances beyond everybody's control, so to speak.
Yeah.
That's just not going to, I just don't see that happening in the same way this year.
I like what they've done so far. In French, it's Levons nous ensemble, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I like how I've seen what they've done. You know, we had one for the, I think it was, they've done some, I think what they did with video over the past couple of years, I think they did one recently. It was for the 100th Grey Cup. I think there was a great one out there. And, yeah, they've had some really good ones over the past couple of years. And this is a good one, I think, to relaunch with. Obviously, I think it's probably going to be a 1-year thing. Then they'll switch to something else, but it's better than nothing.
Yeah.
It's better than nothing. So, you know.
And that's it. And you want to capitalize on the fact that, you know, like, as I said, fans league-wide are jonesing for football bad. They want CFL bad. Like, I see it every single day on Twitter, is just fans just getting hyped for the CFL to come back. And, again, knowing that all these teams are going to be back in action and fans are going to be allowed in the stands and be allowed to at least watch games live, I mean, that's huge right there. To me, I think it behooves the CFL to try and promote that as much as possible. And it sounds like they're certainly trying to make an effort to try to stoke that fire, that sort of feeling of family and unity and everything like that. Like, you know, we're all in this together. Like, that was kind of the rallying cry from day one of this pandemic, is that, you know, we're all supposed to be in the same boat together.
Yeah.
And I think the CFL is trying to sort of put their own sort of spin on it. You know, just like, hey, you know, we've all missed watching CFL football, and now we're getting it back. So yeah, rise with us, I guess, was, you know, the idea is like, you know, we're trying to pick ourselves back up and get back to what we love, which is CFL football.
Rising from the ashes like a phoenix.
Yeah. I think I can get a little bit of that vibe. So yeah, I definitely see that. So
yeah.
I mean, good on the CFL to be able to try and promote that and get the word out as much as possible, because I'm sure a lot of people too have forgotten about the CFL because of no season last year.
Exactly.
And now you've got this league that's coming back, hopefully stronger than ever. Yeah, I mean, like, whatever you can do to get fans excited, you know, keep stoking that fire. I definitely think it's something that the CFL has to do. And for the most part, as you said, in years past, they've had some very successful campaigns, and hopefully this one will be no different.
Yeah. Even though we don't have a game next week, the CFL season does start. We are looking at bringing in. Hey, it's funny, Cliff. With the end of training camp, it's now basically a quote unquote free for all. We can actually get players back on the pod now, because they will be in their own homes, apartments, wherever they're going to be living for the season. So we'll be able to get them on the line now again. I'm happy about that. So we're planning on some stuff for next week, including the debut of the Alouettes Flightdeck, presented by Sport Buff.
Oh, man.
Yeah. And just as a reminder again, as I had promised, week 1 of the season, we will be having a giveaway next week. So make sure you tune in on how you can get some free Alouettes merch.
Absolutely. And to me, like, August is pretty much where everything gets started. Like, yes, the Alouettes are not playing in week 1. That's fine. But we're going to be playing. We're going to be ready to go. This time next week, we know who's going to be a member of the Montreal Alouettes. We're going to be able to get members of the Alouettes back onto the podcast to talk with us and let you, the fans, know just how excited they are to be members of this team going into 2021 and getting set for that first game out in Edmonton against the Elks. I don't know about you folks, but I'm ready for some damn football to be played live. And this, you know, I'm ready to put behind this whole unfortunate nonsense with not being able to go to training camp sessions or anything like that. I want to put that behind and leave it in July August comes about, new month, a month filled with football. I'm going to be excited about it. Tim's going to be excited about it. And we want to make sure that you all are excited about it.
Exactly.
So stay ready.
Yep. Have any suggestions for us on who you maybe you want to have on future shows? You can email us also at flight?
Alouettes podcast at gmail.com.
Thank you. Alouettes podcast at gmail.com.
Or just shoot us a message on the old Twitter machine.
Exactly. So, again, it starts. The 2021 season starts next week on the road to the Grey Cup. So we're just hope you're back with us next week because we're excited. So everybody here at the Alouettes Flight Deck for Cliffy D, I'm Tim Capper. We're on Final Approach.